So let's keep moving now with our next innovative mind, and this time we're heading into the world of technology and fashion. Rachel Tipograph was named one of Forbes magazine's 30 under 30 who are changing the world. Marie Claire named her one of the 50 most influential women in America, and Business Insider named her one of New York Tech's coolest people. As Global Director of Digital and Social Media at Gap, she oversaw the fashion retailer's digital presence. Some of you are probably customers. And today she is the founder and the CEO of Micmac, the first digital video shopping network. She is here to talk about how digital technology, big data, and democratized video production are coming together to change consumers' habits. Welcome to the stage, Rachel Tipograph. Hi again, Rachel. All right, I have a gift for you.
Great.
Well. All right.
Well, one, I'm inspired. I go to conferences often, and I've never been so moved in the last 20 minutes and probably the last year. And I'm also humbled to be in all of your presence because I have a very different background than many of you. I am a storyteller. I am a marketer. I don't have a science or engineering background, and I actually blame my teachers for that. I had amazing teachers in one part of my life, and then I didn't connect with others. And I feel like if I had Dr. E as a teacher, science could have been my thing. Anyway, you can still be an inventor if you don't have a science background, because you can partner with people like you in the room. Innovation comes from collaboration. It comes from creativity. It comes from finding people who are different than you to make real change in this world. I am really passionate about storytelling and sales. The American dream, we all can come up with ideas, few people can produce them, and even fewer can actually sell. And I believe that I have the ability to help more people in the world sell their ideas than ever before via the most powerful storytelling tool in the world, video. It's why 51% of Americans go on Netflix every night. It's the most powerful storytelling tool in the world. So I created something called the mini-mercial. It's a super short, shoppable infomercial designed for all of us who grew up on the iPhone. And I'll explain to you why I'm doing this. It won't feel so random and where we're heading. So first, let's see how good I am at storytelling and if you can understand my company in 15 seconds. So Micmac, it's the first mobile video shopping network. If you have an iPhone, the one thing I ask you to do is download it and give me feedback. We publicly launched our company in June, and when we talk to our users, the first thing they tell us is how funny Micmac is. Our value proposition first is entertainment. Why? Because if you have really dry storytelling, there's no way in the world anyone is going to ever tune in or certainly buy anything from you. So all of our hosts have an improv comedy background. The second is our users say that we sell things that you can't find anywhere else. The products are so unique. Guess what? That's not true. I sell things that are probably available at Walmart, Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, etc. But we have significantly changed the environment of shopping that it makes the most mundane objects feel in the world unique. The third is at 9 p.m. every night, we release new content. It's this new idea of time-based shopping. You come home from school, you do your homework, you probably then go on Snapchat, you go on Netflix, and you're also going on Micmac. Our users know at 9 p.m. every night to tune in for new content. This is a huge hurdle in shopping, and I'll talk about how I overcame that at Gap and why we're doing it this way at Micmac. And then finally, this idea of exclusiveness. Last night, we launched a big brand partnership with Swedish Fish, that little red fish-shaped candy. The week before, we launched a partnership with American Express. So bigger and bigger brands continue to come on the platform as we grow at really, really fast pace. So I worked at Gap for 3 years. I oversaw global digital. I've spent my whole life thinking about retail. My family comes from retail. We came from Eastern Europe, we came to New York, and we started a sporting goods store. So it's been in my blood for a long time. Infomercials. If I said that word to anyone, they're like, Tipograph, why would you leave Gap to go disrupt the infomercial industry? It's a dirty word. It has this really negative stigma. But what I realized was that infomercials was actually one of the first examples of using real-time data to drive content and commerce. You have your crazy aunt watching the TV, she sees a product that maybe she needs in her life, she picks up the phone, she calls in. In real time, a television producer is having the host change their approach based on the influx of telephone calls coming in. I mean, this was happening in the 70s and the 80s. This is one of the first examples to use real-time data, but it was very manual. So I stumbled into the infomercial industry while I was at Gap. So I was this wild card hire. Gap had 7 years of declining sales. This is now the beginning of 2011. And what the company recognized was that not only were they disconnected from their customers, but they were disconnected from each other as a business. So one day when all of your inventions go global, you'll have tens of thousands of employees working for you. And you'll realize that a big part of the focus of your job is figuring out the most efficient way to get large groups of people to galvanize around an idea and work most effectively together. So Gap had 50,000 employees. No one was talking. You'd walk into a Gap store and you'd say to yourself, what's going on here? This place feels funny. I can't find a white t-shirt. You think you could go to Gap and find a white t-shirt. So they decided to hire me because when Gap created the company in 1969, it was called Gap for a reason. It was for the Gap generation, people in their 20s. The beginning of 2011, the average customer at Gap was a 47-year-old woman. The most popular item sold on Gap.com was elastic-waisted jeans for women. They lost all style and cool credibility. So the organization did something that I thought was quite innovative. They said to themselves, let's not go hire that traditional marketer, meaning someone who has their MBA, someone who's 45 years old, someone who's spent 20 years in retail. Let's go hire a 20-something. Someone who's going to come into this building and tell us everything that we're doing is wrong and culturally irrelevant. And I had that opportunity. And as you can tell from my personality, I'll be more than happy to tell you what you're doing is wrong. So I go into Gap, and I had this crazy situation. They said, build a global digital team from the ground up. And the number one thing for me, what I recognized walking into that job is, I'm walking into a company of 50,000 people. I'm 24 years old. They're giving me an enormous amount of responsibility. This is not going to be as easy. And the number one thing that I need to identify is whether my boss will empower me. So when you guys go out into the job market, you're going to have no problem getting a job. But you need to interview your boss as much as they're interviewing you. Because if you don't have a boss who's going to empower you and set you up for success, your job's going to be really, really hard, no matter how smart or creative you are. So fast forward, I go into Gap, and I tell them what I believe is my future for commerce. And I believe the future of commerce is distributed commerce, meaning if you spend all your time in Snapchat, you should be shopping Gap products in Snapchat. And so that was my big thing when I was there, was figuring out a way to make the Gap.com shopping cart live all over the internet. So when I was talking to you and making you realize that Gap has products that actually make sense for your daily life, you never had to go to Gap.com. You could buy it within Facebook. You could buy it within Refinery 29. You could buy it in an environment that could be similar to Snapchat. But while I was at Gap, there was something that really annoyed me about my job. And it had nothing to do with Gap or corporate America. And it had everything to do with the internet. When the internet was built, it was built for something that we call in marketing direct response marketing. So the way to understand that is when you're at your parents' house and they open up the mailbox and they have all these catalogs. That's an example of direct response marketing. Figuring out the most personal information you can get from someone and then try to have a one-to-one conversation with them. So how that transforms on the internet is really two ways. When you guys type something into Google, let's say you're looking for Duracell batteries, and then you go onto Facebook and you're like, wait a second, why is there an ad for Duracell batteries on Facebook? That's called retargeted advertising. When you open up your inbox and you get all these promotional emails for 40% off, 50% off, that's retargeted advertising. To everyday people, all of us in this room, that's actually the most annoying thing on the internet. It's also the most effective way to drive an e-commerce business. So all of a sudden, my job became annoying people online every single day to drive sales. And I hated myself. But I had to do this because Gap's a publicly traded company, and I had to meet sales metrics that Wall Street cared about. So every day I went to work and I asked myself the same question. How do I drive sales on the web, not annoy people, and even make Gap seem cool at the same time? Fast forward, I get this crazy opportunity. My boss tells me we're going to go back on TV, the first time in 7 years, a typical commercial, and that it was my job to take this typical commercial and put it on the internet and make it feel really big. So what I decided to do was run a lot of experiments, because I believed that the future of commerce was distributed commerce, but I also believed that the most powerful storytelling tool in the world is video. So what happens when I combine the two? So I kind of use Gap dollars to do my own experiment. So when you're in a big corporation, you have the opportunity to experiment with resources that might not be readily available to you when you're on your own. You're in a basement, you're in a laboratory. So what I learned was I was right. Video actually can drive as high of conversion as promotional emails and retargeted advertising. But when I dug even deeper into the data, I saw a really big difference actually between my two primary experiments. And what I was trying to figure out was, do I have to go down the route of glossy professional video production that advertising companies spend so much money on every year, billions of dollars, to create those types of glossy ads? Or could I act like all of us in the room? Can I take my iPhone and essentially create crappy mobile video on my phone to tell the same type of product story and marketing story for Gap? Because if I could do that, I could save this company a lot of money and I could do it at scale. Unfortunately, the results told me otherwise. Professional video way outperformed in terms of driving sales. And there was equal reach, meaning I reach as many people between both experiments. There was equal spend. I put the same amount of advertising dollars. Equal talent. There was the same level of celebrity talent in the videos. Equal product messaging, meaning I styled the products exactly the same. I had the same product information about the products we were selling. The only difference was the level in production quality. So I was really disappointed because there was no way to scale that. I can't spend lots and lots of money to create 10,000 videos for Gap every single year. So I actually refused to accept that as the answer. And so I now have this new question. How do I create professional video at scale, designed for the mobile social web? Because where do you guys watch video content? You watch it on your iPhone or your Android. That's meant to convert into sales. And I realized that this solution doesn't exist in the world. So I said to myself, well, I want to build it. And so I quit my job. And everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, you're doing so well. You're the youngest executive of this company. You can afford things you've never been able to afford before. And I said, well, I'm not married. I don't have kids. My only responsibility is my rent in New York City. While that's expensive, there's things like Airbnb now. I can get creative with how I live. So let me go after this crazy idea. Let me try to change the future of media and commerce myself. So I did my research, right? I needed to make sure that it wasn't just a cool idea in my head, but really could this be a significant business? And I learned the infomercial industry continues to grow every year. It's now a $250 billion industry. That's 1% of our gross GDP. There's very few players. They all talk to older people, women who are 45 to 65 years old. I want to go after people 16 to 34 years old. So the market opportunity was there. I then launched the company. I took $5,000 out of my pocket. I built a prototype with 2 of my friends. I raised a team. I had this crazy marketing campaign. We wanted the company to come out into the world and say, hey, we're a company for people who grew up in the 90s. We're an entertainment company first that happens to sell things. And that's my cousin.
Do the Mic-Mac, 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 do the Mic-Mac. So get up on your phone and do the Mic-Mac. Hey!
So I got in a lot of trouble while creating that video. That was Uber drivers, Postmate delivery people, cops. And we wanted to create a storm. The video went viral. We launched June 2nd. 48 hours later, Apple named us Best New App. We now have actually over 300 brands on the platform. We've created nearly 1,500 mini commercials, and we continue to sign up brands and create video every single day. The big thing about what we do is that you go on Micmac, Micmac doesn't feel like shopping. There's sound.
The more likely it is that you're going to win a prize. And no, the prize is not me, but it could be if you take me out to a nice dinner. No, seriously, I'm single.
So industry standard, the number that I care about, you guys care about metrics, I care about conversion. So people who watch videos, does that result in a sale? Industry standard is 1% to 2%. Micmac, it's 8.5%. We have some of the highest conversion on the internet. Because of what happens in the app, I measure everything you do. I know the amount of seconds of the videos you watch. I know if you hit a fave button. I know if you hit add to cart. Based on all of that data, I then personalize your feed and offers to make sure that you're gonna buy a product. This is a completely data-driven company, but we happen to be really good at storytelling.
So Rachel,
Yeah.
we have questions coming
Yeah,
from the
let's do
audience
it.
and the internet now. We want to bring that into the equation because you've inspired a lot of ideas, and I know people are brimming with some excitement and some questions. So Hall has some of them.
Yeah, this is the fashion row, so I'll expect a question from this row. Look at the metrics and the fashion. It's amazingly how they come together. And I use the same colors as Siemens. I thought that was an accident or not. Terrific. A question. We have some, but I think a lot of the questions were answered. Ivani? Where's Ivani? Ivani, where are you? You had a question. Is it about the future of marketing? You think did it get answered? I know I have your question, but she kind of answered a lot of it.
How do you think shopping is going to change in the future?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So first, in the physical world, you're gonna continue to see more brick and mortar stores close, especially in suburban areas. As a population, we're moving towards urban centers, and what's gonna happen with brick and mortar is that they're gonna become much more experiential. So every store you're gonna walk into will have some version of a coffee shop or a barber shop or daycare. There has to be a reason for people to leave their home or not shop on their phone. When it comes to mobile shopping, it's gonna be absolutely, I would bet literally my life savings, that it's gonna be about distributed commerce, what we're going after. And then it's gonna be about people like you guys creating your own products and selling direct to consumer and not having to go through traditional retail channels.
That is a great answer, and that's all the time we have questions for. But they can tweet you questions too,
Yeah,
right?
it's my name. Just tweet me.
Tweet
Rachel Tipograph, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Micmac, thank you. Thank you, Rachel.